Out of the Box continues on Q1043.
All right, this is Jonathan Clarke, joined live in the studio with the lead singer of a local New York City band called Buddahead, Ramon Kia, and guitar player Simon. What's the last name?
Gibson.
All right, well, welcome you guys. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
So, the journey which brought you, Ramon, to New York City is an interesting one, not a typical one.
Right.
Talk about where you grew up first.
Well, I was born in Iran, and I was born in Iran just around the time of when the Iranian Revolution first happened, and there was an Iran-Iraq war.
Right.
And
this is the late 70s, early 80s?
It's the revolution was late 70s, and the war was 1980. So I mean, I was still a very little boy, but so yeah, I grew up in Iran. The war was right outside my bedroom, and we were getting bombed every night by Saddam. So
literally, outside your door.
Outside the door. The revolution happened directly. The epicenter of it was on our street. So the very first shootings that happened was in my bedroom, which was kind of miraculous thinking about it now, that I was the very first part of the very first bullets that went flying for the revolution.
Yeah, there were bullets lodged in the wall, and
the soldiers came into my bedroom to shoot at the revolutionaries in the street below, and I still have to this day the bullet shells, the casings that came out of their machine guns. I just collect them. I still have them in a little Ziploc bag at home.
We're all lucky you're here telling us about it, I guess, at this point, right?
I guess so. I mean, I was a little boy, but so then the war happened, and Saddam was, bombing Tehran every night, and I was part of that. And the ever rotating cycle of waking up to the sirens, going down, in the shelters. After a while, actually, we gave up going down into the shelters because it was just like, you're seeing buildings get demolished right next to you. And the people who were in the shelter certainly didn't survive, so you just kind of gave up and just watched the bombing. And then after that, my dad, who was raised here and educated here, decided he didn't want that for me at all.
I can't blame him.
Yeah,
you're like a little kid running around.
Oh, totally, little kid. And so he sent me to England, and then the journey continued there, where I grew up in a boarding school, military boarding school.
Wow.
Yes.
From military to another kind of military, I guess.
Seriously,
but
it's out of the, what's the expression? Out of the fire into the frying pan.
Exactly. So you go to school in England, and then how do you end up here in New York?
Interesting. Well, music was my big hobby, and I'd landed myself a small music publishing deal in England while I was still at university, and I just finished college, and I got a call from a record label, Jimmy Iovine, Interscope Records, and
small executive.
He called me. I remember it was a Sunday afternoon. He called me. At first, I didn't believe it was him, and I was like, "Nah."
That's probably like one of your friends, right?
I hung up the phone.
Clive Davis, line 2. Get out of here.
Right, seriously. So I remember hanging up the phone on him, and he then called a manager.
You actually hung up on him?
I didn't believe it was Jimmy Iovine. Why would Jimmy Iovine be calling me? I'm like sitting in my tiny little room in London.
Yeah, in London, and he's probably calling from L.A., right?
He called from L.A., that's right. So anyway, he was interested in the music that I was doing, and he flew me over to L.A. to meet him. It was a day of the Grammys. I met him, and I walking into his room, and the guy from the Wallflowers was sitting there.
Jacob Dylan.
Yeah. R. Kelly came in. It was a very, very surreal day. And so anyway, that brought me to L.A., where then I started thinking, wait, I can do this music thing. It's coming my way. It's happening right now. I grabbed it and hated living in L.A. Just wasn't working out for me.
Well, rewind really quick back to Iran. Did you hear any Western bands in Iran that you recall, or was that mostly in the UK when you got there?
Well, Iran had banned music, so the only music you could really hear was religious music. We did have a piano at home, and I learned to play what were kind of like Iranian pop songs on the piano. Things that, like, say, my dad had a cassette of 2 songs that, I would hear and play. And occasionally when we listened to BBC radio, we would hear like a song or two, or every now and then, because it's talk radio, but they would play some songs. The first music I really heard was when I was coming over from Iran to the UK. My dad was like, all right, here's your suitcases, you're going off on this journey, and it was a long journey. You weren't really allowed to leave the country, so I had to cross different countries. I went from Iran to Dubai, to Kuwait, to, I think, Germany, to France, to then find my way to London. And he gave me some cassettes. There was Cat Stevens' Tea for the Tillerman. It was a Japanese
now known as Yusuf Islam. But,
Yusuf Islam, right.
Yeah.
Go figure that one out. There was the Beatles' Love Songs, which are Japanese import, and an American band, Bread.
Oh, yeah.
The Sound of Bread.
Right.
And he had given me, he then sent along another cassette, which was Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. And those were the first pieces of music I'd ever heard.
That's a good foundation.
It's a very good foundation.
Yeah.
Well, Bread is a little iffy, but
A lot of hits.
a lot of hits, a little iffy.
Now, you have this show coming up at the Canal Room here in Manhattan this Thursday, May 10th. This will be a typical show, I guess, for the band, but not so typical on what's going down at the event, actually. There's more than just you playing live. Talk about that.
Right. Well, actually, it's not that typical of what we would do, except for the element of us turning up on stage and playing. Everything around it is new for us as well. The idea was born by Adam Breutman, who's an emerging technologies whiz. And he had this idea of having a band play in the real world, streaming that into Second Life. So all the people who exist in this virtual world can see the show as well. But instead of having avatars representing the band, the actual live video feed will represent the band. That feed is then taken from Second Life, streamed back into the
Second
Canal
Life
Room.
is a company, right?
Second Life is...
So portal,
it's
website?
basically a 3D internet version of MySpace.
Okay.
In which you create an avatar, a character, or a representation of yourself, and you can, explore the online world within that capacity, very much like World of Warcraft, except it's not a game. It's social media. You're interacting with real people,
So let me paint a picture for you. You guys are playing a song at the Canal Room in Manhattan this coming Thursday night. I'm on a laptop in Iran, and I dial up which website to see this?
secondlife.com.
And then what will it look like?
It will look like you'll go to Morpheum, which is an island which is hosting this show. There'll be a virtual venue built. You will go to this venue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there'll be lots of other people, all in virtual avatars. They'll all be hanging around. You'll be able to interact with any of them through the IM system that they have. And you'll see the band, like a video of the band, live from the Canal Room being streamed there, so you can watch that. And you'll see the avatars which are made of us, that look just like us, playing. Now, the avatars are controlled by the Nintendo Wii controllers live from the Canal Room. So they'll be moving just like we're moving on stage.
Now, you're going to have them attached to you while you're playing? Is that how that works?
No, I think someone actually
will be following you, or
will be
like
following us and doing the movements.
That's wild.
Which is kind of wild, right?
We're going to branch that out to the people who are there, too, like the people who show up. We're going to, these Wii controllers are going to be rotating through people, so anyone who's interested in making us do flying rock star kicks mid-set is, within that capacity to do so.
So when this, can you record what it looks like so you can look at it later? Will it be downloadable again to view and view and view?
That's right.
Oh, okay,
the whole thing gets filmed,
right?
And it gets filmed because it's getting streamed live back into the Canal Room venue. So if you're in the Canal Room, you can look at the stage, see us play, or you can look at these big screens and see us in Second Life in 3D play.
Maybe you shouldn't have a monitor to look at while you're playing. It might be distracting. Maybe you look like Chewbacca or something.
Oh my God! Is that